The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear the beat of one heartbeat. It seemed like the whole world was waiting for someone to breathe. All the seats in the courtroom were filled, but no one would move or even whisper. The big, wooden doors had just slammed shut, enclosing everyone inside with the truth. A truth that, once uttered, would be able to break up a family forever. The air was heavy, nearly choking, with unspoken tension and fear. People glanced uneasily at each other, but remained in hushed tones. This was not another trial. This was not money, custody, or a normal family battle. No. This was life versus death. This was about Christine Brown. A woman loved by many, feared by others, and now at the middle of a mystery that had shaken everyone to their core. For months, the public had been informed that Christine's death was nothing more than a tragic accident, a heart-wrenching loss, but not one brought about by foul play. An easy tale, simple to accept, simple to believe. But in private, there had long been whispers. Whispers of arguments, secrets, betrayals, and vows whispered in the dark. And now, those whispers had become too loud to ignore. The gathering of the Browns. The Browns were seated throughout the courtroom, a portrait of divided unity. Once they were introduced to the world as one united, powerful family held together by love and religion, now they resembled strangers stuck in the same room. Seated at the defendant's table was Kody Brown, his face pale and haggard. His normally assertive demeanor was missing. He appeared small, delicate, even shattered, today. His hands shook ever so slightly as he held onto the table's edge, his knuckles aching white with tension. Kody sat straight ahead, his jaw clenched, not making eye contact with anyone. Was it fear that caused him to tremble, or guilt? Meri, Janelle, and Robyn sat in the room. Although they sat together, there was no affection between them. Their bodies were rigid, their faces not giving anything away, and they appeared together only because of the tragedy that had brought them there. Meri sat straight up, her hands clasped tightly together in her lap. She appeared resolute, but her eyes were red-ruddied as though she had not slept in weeks. She had one fleeting glance at Kody, and the anguish in her face was evident, a concoction of love, hate, and heartache. Janelle sat to the left of Meri, with her lips clamped into a stiff line. She gazed at the table in front of her, refusing to meet anyone's eye. From afar, she seemed to be in control, but the restless drumming of her fingers against her knee gave away her anxiety. Janelle was a woman who was keeping herself together by will alone. Robyn, however, looked like she was about to fall apart at any second. Her complexion was white, her eyes open and brimming with tears. She continued to wring her hands, muttering under her breath. Occasionally she would look over nervously at Kody, then sharply away again. This wasn't a family anymore. This was a gathering of broken spirits, each with secrets they couldn't carry. The judge enters abruptly. The heavy door behind the bench creaked open, and the judge stepped in, his black robe billowing behind him. Everyone stood up, the motion stiff and mechanical, like puppets on strings. The judge's expression was somber as he sat down. With one swift whack of his gavel, the room came to a standstill. Court is now in session for the case of Christine Brown. The thud of the gavel was like a gunshot. Gasps shuddered through the room. Although everyone knew why they were there, the words spoken out loud made it frighteningly real. This wasn't about uncovering a secret. This was about uncovering a murderer. The judge's eyes scanned the room, lingering momentarily on Kody before continuing on. There was a heaviness in that glance, as though he could somehow feel the evil lurking beneath the surface. The prosecution's opening. The prosecutor rose, a lean man with keen eyes that didn't miss anything. He walked slowly, his footsteps ringing off the highly polished floor as he walked towards the jury. He held in his hand a single sealed envelope. It was plain and unmarked, yet it seemed to emanate power, as if it held something too volatile to be expressed in words. He held it aloft for all to see. Inside this envelope, he began, his voice calm but chilling, is Christine Brown's final message, a note she wrote the very night she died. A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Robyn covered her mouth with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Meri's grip on her lap tightened until her knuckles turned white. Janelle finally looked up, her face pale with shock. The prosecutor let the moment sink in before continuing. For months, Christine's death was written off as an accident. A tragedy indeed, but an uncomplicated random tragedy. He slowly turned, his eyes coming to rest on Kody. But today you will hear the truth. Christine Brown did not die accidentally. She was silenced. Because she knew something that someone desperately wanted to remain secret. The words drew the air right out of the room. Every person present felt the chill of fear creep up their spine. The prosecutor's voice dropped lower, more intense. And before this trial ends, you will know exactly who wanted her gone, and why they were willing to kill to protect their secret. He placed the envelope carefully on the evidence table, as if setting down a bomb. Shock waves through the room. The reaction was instant. Robyn burst into quiet sobs, hiding her face in her hands. Meri's lips parted, but no words came out. Janelle leaned back in her chair, her breathing shallow and rapid. The audience in the gallery began whispering furiously, voices rising until the judge banged his gavel for silence. The judge thundered, "There will be no outbursts in my courtroom." Slowly the noise died down, but the tension only grew thicker. Kody all the while did not stir. His expression stayed completely blank, as if chiseled from stone. But if anyone had looked really closely, they would have noticed the tiny twitch of his jaw, the way his fingers clenched on the table, and the very slightest flash of something shadowy in his eyes. Was it rage? Or was it terror? The weight of the moment. Everyone in that courtroom knew one thing. If that envelope had been opened, there would be no turning back. Families would be ruined. Lives would be altered forever. The truth would slither out of the darkness, pulling with it every falsehood ever uttered over the years. The prosecutor took a step back, his opening statement complete, and the ensuing silence was oppressive. Robyn's soft sobs filled the room like a mournful refrain. Meri had finally closed her eyes, falling into a prayer of sorts. Janelle gazed at the envelope, her face whitening with fear, and Kody simply sat stock still, his face a mask. He had the look of a man standing on the precipice of a cliff, aware the floor below him was about to collapse. The storm begins. The judge leaned forward, speaking low and hard. This trial will reveal the truth regarding Christine Brown's death. But let me remind all of us, prevarications will not prevail in this courtroom. Perjury will be dealt with. Secrets will be revealed. His eyes swept across the family, lingering momentarily on each face. The moment for secrecy is past. A second bang of the gavel. The sound reverberated like thunder. The storm had commenced. And by the time it was over, no one in the Brown household would ever be the same again. Every family has secrets. But some secrets are so dark, they destroy everything they touch. The judge's gavel had hardly stopped resonating before the prosecution's first witness was called. The room fell silent once more, so quiet it seemed forced, as if everyone was holding their breath in case something else terrible might be said. Christine Brown's death was the sort of tragedy people believed they knew. The official version had been told over and over again on television and in the papers. Christine had died in a horrific accident. The sort of freak occurrence that no one could possibly have foreseen. But that narrative had never been believable to those closest to her. Christine was cautious, robust, and fiercely loyal to her children. The notion that she had simply slipped into death didn't sit right. And now, finally, with the truth soon to be revealed, everyone in that courtroom could sense it. Christine's death was not an accident. The last days of Christine. The prosecutor started by sketching a haunting portrait of Christine's last days. Christine had always been the center of the Brown family, warm and loving, and fiercely independent. Even when things were bad, she wore a smile on her face for the benefit of her children. But the months went by, and those around her started noticing a change. Christine grew jumpy, constantly looking over her shoulder as if she was being followed. She quit answering nighttime phone calls. She began locking her doors, something she never did. And then, the conversations. Midnight phone calls to friends and subdued, tearful conversations with Janelle and Meri. Christine appeared to be in a hurry to get out of Flagstaff and begin anew elsewhere. She yearned to save her children, to provide them with a life distant from the turmoil and suffering. The prosecutor's tone became less stern, as he informed the jury. Christine wasn't scheming to move. She was scheming to escape, because someone close to her made her feel like she wasn't safe anymore. Gasps filled the courtroom. Janelle closed her eyes, visibly shaken by the reminder of her last talks with Christine. Robyn clutched a tissue so tightly that it tore apart in her hands. The tension was unbearable. Everyone wanted to know, who was Christine running from? Meri takes the stand. The bailiff called the first witness. Meri Brown stood up slowly, moving toward the stand with slow steps. She appeared like a woman with the burden of the world on her shoulders. Once sworn in, Meri sat down, her hands shaking a bit, as she held onto the edge of the witness chair. The prosecutor went over to her gently. "Prosecutor Meri, tell us about Christine's state of mind during the days leading up to her death." Meri drew a deep breath, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. Christine. She wasn't right. She was constantly checking over her shoulder, as if someone was following her. "She told me," she said she was afraid. The courtroom fell silent once more. Even Kody's face wavered for an instant. "Prosecutor, did she mention what she was afraid of?" Meri shook her head slowly. "No. She refused to tell me what. She just told me that she had the feeling that something awful was about to happen. I thought she was just stressed out, you know? I thought it was stress. But now?" Her voice broke. "Now I wish I'd pushed her to tell me more." Meri dissolved into tears, burying her face as sobs shook her body. The judge requested a temporary recess so that she could calm down. In the gallery, individuals shifted restlessly, muttering about what they'd heard. The picture of Christine, a fearless woman brought low by fear and subterfuge, was chilling. Meri didn't leave the stand until tears were streaming down her face, and she couldn't meet Kody's eyes. Janelle's stunning testimony. The next person called evoked a stir in the courtroom. Janelle Brown. Janelle approached the stand with her head high, but her face was serious. She was sworn in, and seated, eyeing the prosecutor. "Prosecutor, Janelle, you and Christine were close. Did she ever share with you what she intended to do in the future?" Janelle nodded, her voice firm at first. "Janelle, yes. Christine wanted to move away from Flagstaff. She was willing to begin again somewhere else. Far away." "Prosecutor, did she explain why?" Janelle paused, shooting a quick glance at Kody. He scowled back at her, his face dark with unspoken threat. She swallowed hard and went on. "Janelle, she didn't give me specifics. She just told me she couldn't trust anyone anymore. Not even her own family." The whole courtroom broke into gasps and wild whispers. The judge slammed his gavel. "Judge, order. Order in the court." But the pandemonium was impossible to restrain. The suggestion was obvious. Christine thought someone in her own family was out to harm her. Robyn buried her face in her hands and shook violently. Meri's jaw dropped in shock. The gallery audience started buzzing with rumors. Janelle's eyes welled up with tears, but she continued talking, her voice shaking. "Janelle, the last time I saw Christine, she hugged me so tightly. She told me, if something happens to me, take care of my children." I thought she was being dramatic. I didn't think it was a goodbye." Her words gave a chill to everyone in the room. Kody's cold reaction. Kody was silent throughout all this. He didn't blink when Meri wept. He didn't respond when Janelle spoke of Christine's chilling final words. He simply sat there, looking straight ahead, his face blank. The prosecutor saw and swung around to him. "Prosecutor, Mr. Brown, you've been quiet during this testimony. Do you have nothing to say regarding Christine's fear? Regarding her belief that someone close to her wanted to kill her?" Kody slowly turned his head, his eyes flat and cold. "Kody, people grieve differently. Christine was emotional. She overreacted to things. That's all this is." People twisting her words. The prosecutor arched an eyebrow. "Prosecutor, so you're saying both Meri and Janelle are lying?" Kody's jaw tightened. "Kody, I'm saying they're wrong." It wasn't the fiery defense anyone expected. It was calm. Too calm. And that, more than anything, unsettled the room. The courtroom grows uneasy. As Janelle stepped down from the stand, the atmosphere shifted. The courtroom no longer felt like a place of justice. It was like a pressure cooker, seconds from bursting. Everybody stared at everybody else with suspicion now. Every look, every muttered word seemed risky. The judge took a brief recess, providing everyone with an opportunity to catch their breath. Robyn sat rigidly in her seat, gripping her hands tightly. Meri glared at the evidence table, pale and shaken. Janelle brushed away silent tears, her body shaking. And Kody just sat back in his chair, his face impassive. But if one had been paying close attention, one might have caught a glimpse of it. The faintest, coldest smile dancing on his lips. The shadow of truth. When the recess was over and everyone sat down again, the prosecutor spoke to the jury again for this part of the trial. Prosecutor, Kody Brown knew she was in danger. She left us clues, words, actions, warnings. She knew the walls were closing in. He pointed toward the envelope, holding Kody's last message. Prosecutor, and when this envelope is opened, you will finally understand who Kody feared and why she never felt safe again. The tension in the courtroom was suffocating now. The walls themselves seemed to be listening. Somewhere deep down, everyone already knew the truth. They simply didn't want to deal with it. As the session concluded, the camera stayed on Kody's face. He was silent, still and calm, but his eyes spoke otherwise. A tale of strength, a tale of anger, and maybe, a tale of guilt. Sometimes the truth doesn't just hurt, it destroys. The courtroom was heavier than ever before. The walls closed in, pinning everyone inside with their secrets. Following Janelle's testimony, the mood had changed entirely. The public could no longer view Kody's death as an accident. Now it seemed like a planned action, one done by a person she had faith in. The prosecutor rose again, his gaze sweeping the room before settling on one individual. Robyn Brown, prosecutor. The court now calls Robyn Brown to the stand. The room fell absolutely silent. Even the rustling of papers ceased. Everybody knew that this testimony would turn everything around. Robyn refuses to testify. Robyn did not budge at first. She sat frozen in her chair, her eyes wide with fear, hands locked on a crumpled tissue. Prosecutor, Mrs. Brown, stand up. Robyn shook her head wildly. Robyn, no. I can't do this. Her voice cracked, hardly more than a whisper. The judge frowned, his eyes piercing. Judge, Mrs. Brown, you're under legal obligation to testify. Step forward, please. Again Robyn remained stationary. She looked at Janelle and Meri, her pale face twisting in a pleading expression, like a caged animal screaming for mercy. Robyn, if I say anything, everything's different. You don't realize. If I say what I do know, it can't be undone. Meri extended a shaking hand, as if to soothe her. But Robyn drew away, shaking so violently she could hardly sit up. Whispers burst from the gallery. Reporters craned forward, straining to hear every sound. The voice of the judge boomed over the commotion. Judge, order. Mrs. Brown, this court will not stand for disobedience. You will go on the stand, or you will be in contempt. The bailiff moved forward, prepared to lead Robyn away. And at last she cracked. Her shoulders slumped, and a sob tore from her chest. Robyn, fine. I'll testify. But when I do, you'll all wish I hadn't. The walk to the stand. Robyn's walk was wavering as she walked to the stand. It was as if with every step, there was 1,000 secrets hanging in the air. Meri and Janelle sat in stunned silence, their faces white. Kody, though, was motionless, his face as hard as stone. Robyn sat down holding onto the wooden arms of the chair, as if she would fall out of it. The bailiff gave her a Bible. Bailiff, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Robyn spoke very quietly. Robyn, I do. The judge nodded to the prosecutor. Judge, continue. The night before Kody's death. The prosecutor spoke calmly but firmly. Prosecutor, Robyn, tell us your last interaction with Christine. Robyn's eyes welled up with tears at once. She shook her head as if attempting to shake away the recollection. Robyn, she visited me late at night. The night before she passed away. Gasp moved across the room. Even Janelle leaned forward, shocked by the news. Robyn, she was shaking, crying. I'd never seen her like that before. Robyn paused, struggling to breathe. The judge handed her a glass of water, and after a moment, she continued. Robyn, Christine said she'd discovered a secret. Something terrible. She said if it got out, it would destroy Kody. Destroy everything. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Reporters scribbled furiously. Spectators whispered and gasped. Voices rising like a storm. The judge slammed his gavel. Judge, order. I will have order in this courtroom. Gradually the commotion faded, but the tension was still electric. Christine's fear. Robyn's weeping increased as she talked. Robyn, she implored me to take care of her children, in case something was to happen to her. She told me someone was stalking her, following her, and she didn't know how much longer she had to live. The prosecutor moved closer, his tone gentle but deadly serious. Prosecutor, did she say who she was afraid of? Robyn froze. Her hands writhed together so tightly they whitened. Robyn, she wouldn't say the name, but she didn't need to. I knew. Prosecutor. And who did you think she meant? Robyn, demose still. You could hear the buzz of the overhead lights, the groan of wooden benches as everyone leaned forward. Finally Robyn whispered one word. Robyn, Kody. The cacophony of sound was instant. Meri gasped and clapped her hand over her mouth. Janelle's eyes opened wide in horror. Reporters jumped up from their chairs. Kody pounded his fists on the table. His face flushed with anger. Kody lies, she's lying to protect herself. The judge banged the gavel. Judge, order. Mr. Brown, you will compose yourself or you will be taken out. But Kody continued shouting, his voice hoarse with rage. Kody, she's lying. She's distorting Christine's words. It's a witch hunt. Bailiffs edged in, prepared to pin him down if necessary. Robyn's breaking point. Robyn cried more intensely, holding her face with her hands. Robyn, Christine informed me she had evidence. Something that would reveal the world about what Kody did. The prosecutor's eyes narrowed. Prosecutor, evidence? What type of evidence? Robyn shook her head. Robyn, she didn't tell me. She just said it was risky. That if Kody were to learn, he'd do anything to keep it a secret. She looked over at the jury, her tear-stained face etched with pain. Robyn, and now she's dead. You tell me, does that sound like a coincidence to you? The whole room became silent. No one was brave enough to breathe. Kody loses control. Kody jumped up from his seat, his chair scraping on the ground. His face was contorted in anger, his voice thunderous. Kody, enough. I will not remain seated here and be subjected to this trash. Bailiffs quickly stepped in to block him from proceeding towards Robyn. The prosecutor turned to the judge, unflustered. Prosecutor, Your Honor, the defendant's outburst serves only to support the witness's point. The judge glared at Kody. Judge, sit down, Mr. Brown. This is your last warning. Kody eased slowly back into his seat, his chest straining with anger, but never removed his eyes from Robyn. It was a dark, cold stare, one that made the spine tingle. The courtroom shifts. Robyn clutched at her tissue, shaking as she concluded her testimony. Robyn, Christine wanted to leave, but she couldn't. Someone wouldn't let her. And now she's gone. She cried openly, sobbing in overwhelming grief. The bailiff had to escort her from the witness stand, back to her chair. Meri remained in stunned silence, tears streaming down her cheeks. Janelle's head shook back and forth, as she whispered to herself, as if attempting to make sense of what she'd just heard. The whole gallery hummed with tension. The previously clear distinctions between truth and deception were now obscured beyond recognition. The judge's warning. The judge surveyed the courtroom, his expression somber. Judge, this case is no longer about proof. It's about survival. for this family, and for the truth as a whole. He pointed to the evidence table, where Christine's last message in the sealed envelope remained, still untouched. Judge, tomorrow. The envelope will be opened. And when that happens, there will be no more secrets. His words hung like a threat, and a promise. A flash of fear. As the court session ended for the day, cameras panned in on Kody. He remained still, his fists balled on the table. For the first time, his facade of control cracked. His gaze flew to the envelope, and for a brief moment, raw fear crossed his face. Robyn noticed it. Meri noticed it. Janelle noticed it. And so did the rest of the country. It was the gaze of a man who knew his whole life was going to fall apart. When the truth finally came out, the screen went black with one ominous line of text. Christine's secret was about to be uncovered, and someone was going to murder to keep it hidden. Sometimes the dead have more to say than the living. There were reporters and flashing cameras at the courthouse when it opened the next morning. The news had spread like wildfire. Kody Brown's last note would be read today. Sheep filled the courtroom, so they packed every bench, every aisle, every corner. No place was left for doubt. They knew this was going to be a day of reckoning. Inside, the air was so hot it felt like it was choking. The air was so thick with fear and expectation. In front of the room, the sealed envelope rested upon the evidence table like an armed gun. All eyes were fixed on it. Everyone wanted to know what Christine's final words would say, and whose lives they would ruin. The judge's warning. The judge walked in, his robe flowing behind him, his face drawn and weary. He banged the gavel, and the room was suddenly silent. Judge, court is now in session. Today we will open and read the last message left by Kody Brown. A note written just hours before she died. He looked around the room, his gaze keen and relentless. Judge, I need to warn all of you. This note contains words that might be shocking, even deadly. Once the truth is uttered, it cannot be unsaid. The words lingered in the air, like smoke. Nobody was brave enough to talk, not even breathe too hard. Kody sat at the defendant's table, his hands so white-knuckled they'd lost all circulation. Next to him, his lawyer was whispering wildly. But Kody didn't appear to notice. He stared at the envelope, crazed, frantic, petrified. Across the room, Meri and Janelle were huddled together. Their skin was ghostly white, their bodies tight. Robyn sat a little away, her hands clasped in her lap, silent tears streaming down her face. This was no longer just a trial. It was a war for the truth. Tension builds. The prosecutor walked to the table of evidence slowly, painstakingly, as though the envelope contained a bomb. The room was holding its breath. Prosecutor, this note was found in Kody Brown's own belongings. It has been confirmed to be in her handwriting. He hesitated, allowing the full force of his words to sink in. Prosecutor, Kody penned this on the night she died. It was concealed within a locket she wore always. A locket she never removed. Meri breathed softly in shock. She recalled that locket. Kody wore it every day, given to her by her daughters. The prosecutor addressed himself to the judge. Prosecutor, Your Honor, with your indulgence, I shall read this letter aloud. The judge nodded once. Judge, proceed. The opening of the envelope. The prosecutor's hand shook a little as he snapped the seal. The ripping of the paper was deafening in the stillness. Kody breathed harder. His chest rose and fell with rapid, desperate gasps, like a man with his feet on the edge of a precipice. Robyn's cries grew louder, muffled behind her shaking hands. Meri gripped Janelle's hand, squeezing hard. Neither woman said a word. They couldn't. The prosecutor slowly unfolded the letter and started reading. Christine's last words. Christine's writing was hurried, messy, frantic-looking. The words were laced with pain, fear, and love. Prosecutor reading. If you are reading this, something has happened to me. A collective gasp moved through the room. Several individuals in the audience covered their mouths in shock. The prosecutor went on, his voice steady but weighed down. Prosecutor reading. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. But I need my kids and the world to hear the truth. Robyn cried louder, her body shaking. Prosecutor reading. I learned something about Kody. Something he's kept secret for years. The audience gasped and shouted. The judge hammered his gavel again and again. Judge, order, I will have order. They quieted down, but the tension increased. The prosecutor's words came slowly, deliberately. Prosecutor reading. Kody has hurt this family more than anyone knows. He promised to defend us. To defend us, but those promises were false. Meri squeezed her eyes shut, sobbing. Janelle clutched the bench, so hard her nails bit into the wood. The dark secret. The prosecutor swallowed hard before reading the next paragraph. Prosecutor reading. I found proof that Kody has been using our family for years. Not only for love, but for power, for money, for control. Gasps erupted throughout the courtroom. Reporters wrote frantically, cameras flashing like lightning. Christine's letter went on. Prosecutor reading. He will do anything to maintain his image, even if it kills him to silence the people who know the truth. If I vanish, it won't be an accident. It will be because I came too close to revealing him. The room erupted into pandemonium. Voices yelled over each other. Some called out Christine's name. Others screamed at Kody. The judge's voice boomed above them all. Judge, silence, or I will empty this courtroom. Gradually the commotion died down, with only the sound of Robyn's labored breathing and Kody's enraged growl. Kody's rage. Kody leapt to his feet, his face contorted with anger. Kody, that letter is fake. Christine was tricked by people who wanted to make her turn against me. The prosecutor looked at him, unflinching. Prosecutor, then tell me why she concealed it in a locket, Mr. Brown. A locket she never took off, not even when she died. Kody's mouth fell open, but he could not speak. His face paled, his eyes crazed. Prosecutor, Christine knew the danger. She wrote this because she was afraid of you. Kody, no, I loved her. His cry rang out in the room. Ragged and hoarse, but his gaze betrayed him. It wasn't love. It was desperation. The last lines of the note. The prosecutor faced the paper again. Prosecutor reading, to my children, if you hear this, know that I love you more than anything. Please be brave, and never let anyone, not even Kody, control your truth. The final line was barely legible, the pen scribbled over by what appeared to be tears. Prosecutor reading, this is my final goodbye. Christine. The ensuing silence was complete. Even the journalists were frozen in shock, unable to move. The courtroom explodes. Then, pandemonium. Robyn screamed, falling forward across the table. Meri wept hysterically, clutching Janelle as the two of them shook. Journalists advanced, calling out questions. Reporter 1, Kody. Did you threaten Christine? Reporter 2. Is this why she left you? The judge shouted over the noise, his voice hoarse. Judge, order, order, now. But it was too late. The courtroom was a storm of chaos and fury. Kody breaks. Kody's body trembled violently. His hands shook, his face a mask of rage and fear. Kody, she's lying. Christine was confused. You're all trying to destroy me. The prosecutor slammed his hand on the table. Prosecutor, Christine is dead, Mr. Brown. She wrote that letter because she knew you'd deny it, just like you're doing now. Kody pushed towards the evidence table, grabbing for the letter. Kody, no, you can't have it. You won't take me down. Ailifs pushed forward, tackling him onto the floor as the crowd shouted. The judge's gavel boomed like thunder. Judge, remove the defendant, now. Kody was pulled out of the room, kicking and screaming. His last words as the doors closed were frightening. Kody, you'll regret this. Every last one of you. The judge's declaration. The judge rose, pale and stern-faced. Judge, This court has heard the final words of Kody Brown. We will recess today and resume tomorrow to decide what to do next. He hesitated, glancing about the room, his voice barely above a whisper. Judge, but let it be known, this family's darkest secret has finally been dragged into the light. The final glimpse while cameras trailed Kody out the door as he was hauled away, Robyn spoke to Meri and Janelle. Her voice quivered on the verge of inaudibility. Robyn, Kody was right. He'll do anything to keep control, even now. The screen went black with a solitary chilling line. The truth was out, but the fight for justice had only just begun. The truth had been spoken, but the war for justice was far from over. The courthouse was strangely quiet the next morning. It was the kind of quiet that precedes a storm. Reporters waited outside in the chill, their cameras at the ready, their voices barely above a whisper with speculation. The world had witnessed Kody Brown being dragged out of court the previous day, screaming, flailing, his innocence shattering like glass. Now, everyone waited to see if he would walk free or be imprisoned forever. The return to court inside the courtroom. The atmosphere was thick. The benches were lined with spectators, reporters, and members of the Brown family. Meri and Janelle sat side by side, white and tired. Neither had slept. The dark circles underneath their eyes made them appear like shadows of their former selves. Robyn sat aside from them, shaking, holding a tissue so fiercely that it was torn in half in her grasp. Her cheeks were splotchy and flushed with weeping. Then, the doors swung open. Kody walked in, accompanied by two bailiffs. His wrists were handcuffed, his proud stance now sloping, but his eyes blazed with fury. Wild, rebellious, dangerous. Whispers circulated through the crowd. Spectator 1 whispering, "Look at him. He doesn't even look human anymore." Spectator 2, "I believe he's guilty. Just look at his face." Kody ignored them all, his eyes fixed on Robyn like a hunter on the prowl. The judge speaks. A judge took the bench and slammed the gavel straight away. Judge, court is now in session. Today we will hear closing arguments and make a decision on whether or not this case goes to trial on murder. The judge's voice was icy and biting, slicing through the room like a razor. He addressed the prosecution first. Judge, Mr. Bennett, continue. The prosecutor stood, smoothing his tie, his face ferocious. The prosecution's final declaration. Prosecutor. Your Honor, Kody Brown did not die by accident. It was a direct consequence of years of domination, manipulation and abuse by Kody Brown. Kody's jaw clenched, but he remained silent, scowling at the prosecutor. Prosecutor. We have Kody's last words, in her handwriting, identifying Kody as the man she feared most. We have the words of Meri, Janelle and Robyn. 3 voices, all telling the same story of a man desperate to keep his dark secrets safe. The prosecutor strode towards the jury box, his voice growing louder with each sentence. Prosecutor. Kody understood the risk when she wrote that letter. She concealed it in a locket, near her heart, since she was aware that Kody would attempt to burn it. He turned sharply, stabbing his finger toward Kody. Prosecutor. And when she died, he believed the truth had died with her, but it hadn't. The truth is right here, in this courtroom, and it's crying for justice. The gallery shook with murmurs and gasps. The judge pounded the gavel. Judge. Order. The defense's desperate plea. Kody's lawyer stood, his hands up in a gesture of serenity. Defense attorney. Your Honor, my client has been demonized without a particle of physical evidence against him for Kody's murder. He walked slowly, locking eyes with the jury. Defense attorney. Kody's letter is heartbreaking, yes, but it is not evidence of murder. It is the emotional letter of a frightened and distressed woman. Robyn gasped and shook her head emphatically. Defense attorney. The prosecution is asking you to sentence a man's life based on words. Words that can't be challenged, because Kody isn't here to explain them. He looked back at Kody, placing a hand on his shoulder. Defense attorney. Kody Brown is a husband, a father and a man who has lived under public scrutiny for years. He might be imperfect, but he is not a murderer. The room hummed with murmurs once more. The defense attorney spoke softly, with convincing tones. Defense attorney. Do not confuse sorrow and bewilderment with guilt. We ask you to disregard these unfounded allegations. He sat down, his countenance serene but strained. The verdict is near. The judge hunched forward, his fingers together. Judge, the court will adjourn for 30 minutes to deliberate. He rose and the bailiff led him away to his chambers. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Correspondents hurried to the doors to report back to their networks. Witnesses argued vociferously, some believing Christine, others that Kody was framed. Meri sat with her face hidden in her hands. Janelle stroked her back, speaking softly. Robyn sat motionless, looking at nothing. Her lips moved silently, as if she were praying. Kody sat at the defense table, his breathing slow and deliberate. He looked calm, too calm, almost like he knew something no one else did. The judge returns. 30 minutes later, the judge re-entered, his face unreadable. Judge, please rise. Everyone stood, their hearts pounding. The judge cleared his throat and read from the paper in his hand. Judge, upon consideration, this court determines there is enough evidence to proceed with a jury trial on the charge of murder. There were gasps in the room. Meri screamed, holding Janelle tightly. Robyn covered her mouth and wept. Kody didn't move. He just stared forward, his face cold and distant. Judge, Mr. Brown will be held in custody until the trial starts. The gavel came down like a pistol shot. Kody's final words. When bailiffs stepped forward to remove him, Kody suddenly broke free and yelled, his voice ringing out across the room. Kody, you think you know what's true. You have no idea what Christine was keeping secret. The room came to a standstill. Everyone looked at him. Kody, she wasn't the victim that you believed she was. She was manipulating all of you. And when you discover the reason why, you will live to regret this day. The bailiffs wrestled him toward the door. Kody, this family is full of snakes. And when the truth comes out, you'll see who the real villain is. His words echoed even after he was dragged away. The aftermath, the courtroom, was in chaos once more. Reporters shouted questions. Spectators argued, some defending Christine, others doubting her. Robyn collapsed into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Meri turned to Janelle, her voice breaking. Meri, what did he mean by that? What was Christine hiding? Janelle shook her head in terror. Janelle, I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not over. The final betrayal as the courtroom cleared. Robyn remained behind, sitting by herself on the bench. Her body convulsed as she muttered to herself. Robyn, he knows. Some way he knows what Christine said to me. Suddenly a shadow crossed over her. She glanced up and stiffened. It was Meri. Meri's face was tear-streaked, but her eyes were hard and razor-sharp. Meri, Robyn, there's something you need to know. Robyn furrowed her brow in puzzlement. Robyn, what do you mean? Meri inched closer, speaking softly and threateningly. Meri, Christine didn't die because of Kody alone. She died because of all of us. Robyn gasped for breath in her throat. Robyn, no. No. That's not true. Meri's mouth twisted into a savage, haunting smile. Meri, isn't it? We all knew. We all remained quiet. And now Christine's blood is on all of our hands. Before Robyn could answer, Meri turned and walked away, leaving her shaking with fear. Closing scene. The camera panned in on Robyn's face as tears ran down her cheeks. Her barely audible voice ended the story. Robyn, voice over. Christine's death was meant to reveal the truth. But instead, it's destroying us. The screen went black with a single icy line. The trial was only the beginning.